I never made it, but I know what it takes. I'm motivated by a mix of emotion. Got my statement, and I'm reading it slow so I can understand it fully. Appreciate my standing, go out of this world and right on time. Oh, never in my life have I seen the sky light up like this. I'm far away from Earth and I wanna know if you exist. Mission control, do you read me? Send me my coordinates lately. Mission control, am I drifting? Tie me to someone who will love me. Yeah, wait, I think I'll last a bit longer. Find another.
Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to another Ref Brandon and the Todd family YouTube video. Wherever you are, whatever you may be doing, thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd family a part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. It is a Thursday, and I know earlier in the week I said that I was going to be doing a USFL Week 1 review before the week was over with, and today is that day. So if you watched any of the USFL games in Week 1, please feel free to let me know. I'm going to quickly run down the scores from Week 1, which won't take long because the USFL, as of right now, is only 8 teams. And the reason why I say as of right now is because, in case you do not know, it is being ran by former Dallas Cowboys player Daryl Johnston. Of course, they called him Moose back in the early to mid 90s when the Cowboys won all of those Super Bowls, and I think he wants it to be successful. It's pretty much a developmental league for the NFL because unlike baseball and unlike basketball, the NFL doesn't have a minor league system. So until the XFL gets up and running consistently, not running for a month or two, but running consistently, then I believe the USFL is going to be the developmental league for the NFL, because there was a few players on each team that have played in the NFL and got cut because of age or because they weren't good enough, whatever the reason. But for the most part, most of the players have only been out of college for 2, 3, 4 years, and they're not quite ready for the NFL. But of course, they're too old to still be in college. I know we have the Canadian Football League, but the Canadian Football League really hardly ever comes on TV anymore, so it's pretty much non-existent. Most people couldn't name 3 teams from the Canadian Football League without getting on Google and looking it up. So I do believe the USFL is going to be successful. Now, in my personal opinion, it's like college football, but it's played at a lot faster pace, especially considering they even have a stoppage of the clock inside of 2 minutes on first downs, which is what college football does. We know the NFL, the clock continues to run. And then you have coaches like Skip Holtz and Kevin Sumlin and Larry Fedora, who spent all of their careers coaching in college. And then you also have Mike Riley, who did coach a few years in the NFL. For the most part, Mike Riley was a college football coach. So since all the players are so young and you have all the coaches that spent all or the majority of their career in the college game, to me it feels like the college game played at a faster pace. And I don't mean faster pace as in they run more plays. I mean faster pace as in it don't take them 4 hours to play one football game. I was watching the Birmingham, New Jersey game, and that game was right at 2 hours, and they were starting the fourth quarter. And that's the way it should be. It shouldn't take 4 hours to play one football game. But it's because there's a whole lot fewer penalties. There's a whole lot less drop passes, a whole lot less timeouts. So they know what they're doing. So it keeps your interest because you don't see a lot of lull spots and a lot of down spots. So I was very entertained by week number one. In my personal opinion, the team that looked the best in week one, even though it means nothing, the team that looked the best in week one was Birmingham, and the team that looked the worst was Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh just looked flat out terrible. But anyway, the scores from week number one: the Birmingham Stallions beat the New Jersey Generals by the score of 28-24, and that was the game of the week, in my opinion, in week number one. Not just because it was the Saturday night game, so it was the actual kickoff of the season, but it was 7-7 after one. And then in the latter stages of the second quarter, New Jersey scored and went up 14-7, and it stayed 14-7 for a long time. And then with less than a minute to go in the third quarter, Birmingham tied the game 14-14. And then in the fourth quarter, Birmingham scored 14 and New Jersey scored 10. So there was almost more points scored in the fourth quarter than there had been in the first three quarters combined, but the game was very entertaining. The Houston Gamblers beat the Michigan Panthers by the score of 17-12. The New Orleans Breakers beat the Philadelphia Stars by the score of 23-17. And then the Tampa Bay Bandits beat the Pittsburgh Maulers by the score of 17-3. And for all you stat junkies out there, the leading quarterback so far in passing yards is Brian Scott of Philadelphia. He had 202 passing yards in week number one. Luis Perez has the most touchdown passes among quarterbacks. He had 2, but New Jersey pretty much used a double quarterback system because the backup quarterback is DeAndre Johnson, and he played just as much as Perez did. But when Johnson's in the game, he very, very, very rarely throws the ball. He pretty much runs it almost every play. And speaking of DeAndre Johnson, he had 98 rushing yards in week number one. And then we also have Randy Satterfield. He was the leading receiver with 100 receiving yards. This week's action gets underway on Friday night when the Panthers take on the Generals. And then on Saturday we have the Maulers and the Stars and the Stallions and the Gamblers. And on Sunday we'll have the Breakers and the Bandits. If you have not watched the USFL yet, I strongly encourage you to do so. I was very entertained by week one. Not just because I love football, but it was very entertaining football. And like I said, week number two gets underway tomorrow night. And in case you have not heard yet, I don't know the reason yet, but yesterday afternoon it was announced that Villanova head basketball coach Jay Wright is stepping down. And like I said, I don't know the reason yet, but he is stepping down. Of course, he's won 2 national championships in his long tenure at Villanova. So now Kansas coach Bill Self has the most national championships among active head coaches now that Jay Wright, who also has 2, is stepping down. And of course we know Mike Krzyzewski just retired. Jim Boeheim has 1 national championship, and John Calipari has 1 national championship. But Bill Self at Kansas has 2. Any thoughts on that, please feel free to let me know. And if you're a Georgia fan out there, I would love to know your thoughts and your opinion from the Georgia spring game this past weekend. And the only reason I say that is because I know I've said before, and I'll say it again. I even said it last week when I was talking about the Clemson spring game. Those spring games don't mean anything to me. They're just a glorified scrimmage. I just watch Clemson because I'm a Clemson fan, but I don't walk away from the game feeling any better or any worse about Clemson because it's a practice. But there are a lot of people that support whoever their team is, and they make a determination right then, based on the spring game, how good or bad their team is going to be. And I've talked to a ton of Georgia fans this week, and they've already made a decision that Georgia is going to win another national championship because of the spring game. And Carson Beck is going to be their starting quarterback because how good he looked in the spring game. And I just want to know, how Georgia fans feel about that. Do you feel that same way, or are you like me and you just feel like, hey, it's a practice, it's a scrimmage, it doesn't mean anything? Please feel free to let me know. Let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. What happened to the wooden car with wooden wheels and a wooden engine? It wouldn't go. And that wraps it up for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of 3. Tell your friends and family how much you love them. Bye.